14 months ago, a YouTuber from Florida who built his career doing burnouts in junkyard cars climbed into a real NASCAR truck at Daytona. He crashed after 5 laps, finished dead last. The garage smirked. Cute. He had his moment. He'll go back to YouTube. That was February. He didn't go back. He kept climbing. And this week, NASCAR finally said the word he'd been racing to avoid. No. Here's exactly what happened. If you don't know the Cleetus McFarland story, stop scrolling, because this is one of the strangest career arcs in modern motorsports. And what NASCAR just did to him on Tuesday. It's going to change how every YouTuber thinks about getting into this sport. His real name is Garrett Mitchell. He's 31 years old. He's got nearly 5 million subscribers on YouTube. He built that audience the hard way, buying broken cars, fixing them in his garage, doing burnouts until the tires exploded. He owns his own track in Florida. He's not a tourist. He's a car guy through and through, and for years, fans have been begging NASCAR to give him a real shot. Then in 2025, he ran a partial ARCA Menards Series schedule, got his feet wet, even pulled off a 10th place finish at Talladega, yeah, that Talladega, in an ARCA car. Then 2026 hit, and everything accelerated. February 13th, 2026, Daytona, Craftsman Truck Series debut. He crashed after 5 laps and finished 37th, dead last in the field. But here's what the critics said, and this is important, because it sets up everything that just happened. They said, "It's Daytona. Anyone can crash at Daytona. Wait until he runs a real series race. Wait until he has to keep the car straight for 200 laps without spinning. Then we'll know." Fair enough. So what happened? April 4th, 2026. Rockingham Speedway. Cleetus McFarland makes his O'Reilly Auto Parts Series debut in the number 33. Richard Childress Racing Chevrolet. This was the audition. This was the race that was going to determine whether NASCAR would clear him for the next big one, Talladega, 3 weeks later. And the results were complicated. He finished 32nd out of 38. He completed 244 of 250 laps. He didn't crash. He didn't crash anyone else. For a guy with one truck start to his name, finishing the race in one piece at Rockingham, a notoriously tricky repaved surface, was actually a small miracle. But there's a but, and it's a big one. He spun out, multiple times. In his own words, Mike posted to Facebook the day NASCAR's ruling came down. Granted, it was a pretty hectic race. I tried to pass someone 3 wide on the 3rd lap, spun out a few more times, didn't crash or crash anybody, but still, it was pretty hectic. 3 wide on lap 3, in your second-tier series debut. At a track you've never raced before, that's the kind of thing veteran spotters watch and immediately reach for their phones. Here's the thing, though. And I need you to pay attention here, because this is the part everyone is missing. Finishing Rockingham without wrecking is not the same thing as being ready for Talladega. Rockingham is a half mile. Talladega is 2.66 miles. Rockingham tops out around 130 miles per hour. Talladega runs in packs of 40 cars, 3 wide, at over 190. A spin at Rockingham is embarrassing. A spin at Talladega ends careers, and not just yours. That's the gap NASCAR was staring at when they made their call. And the gap is enormous. Tuesday, April 7th, 2026. NASCAR makes it official. Cleetus McFarland is not approved to race the O'Reilly Auto Parts Series event at Talladega Superspeedway on April 25th. And this is where the story gets really interesting. Because the way NASCAR delivered the news, it wasn't a slap. It was almost an apology. John Probst is NASCAR's Executive Vice President and Chief Racing Development Officer. He's the guy whose name goes on these decisions. And here's what he actually said in his statement, reported across multiple outlets including ESPN 630 DC and Your News this week. He said, "We're all huge Cleetus fans. We all watch his videos and are certainly very appreciative of everything he's done in our sport and will continue to do in our sport." Then he laid out the technical part. Mitchell is currently approved for all of ARCA, see all of the Truck Series and O'Reilly Series short tracks. Not superspeedways, not yet. And then came the line that mattered most. "We'd like to see more out of Cleetus in the short tracks, so we're not saying no, but there is more that we would like to see out of Cleetus before we would approve him for Talladega." Read that twice. That is not a ban. That is not a punishment. That is a "not yet," delivered publicly by an executive who went out of his way to praise the driver in the same breath. NASCAR didn't shut a door on Cleetus McFarland. They pointed at the one he still has to walk through. And then, and this is the part that should silence anyone who wants to call this decision unfair, Dale Earnhardt Jr. spoke up. On his own podcast, the Dale Jr. Download, before NASCAR's ruling came down, Earnhardt said he watched everything. The truck test footage, the O'Reilly test with RCR, the Rockingham race, all of it. And his verdict, reported by Yardbarker: "I saw enough to not approve him for Daytona or Talladega in the O'Reilly Series, to be quite honest with you." That's not a hater. That's the most popular driver of his generation, the son of the man who made Talladega mythology, saying the exact same thing NASCAR ended up saying officially. When Dale Jr. and the sanctioning body land in the same place independently, that's usually a signal the call is right. Now here's the part that should make every Cleetus fan nervous. And if you've been watching this whole video waiting for the punchline, this is it. Because of the ruling, Cleetus McFarland is now restricted to short tracks in the O'Reilly Series. So when's the next O'Reilly Series short track on the calendar after Bristol this weekend? Iowa Speedway, August 8th. That's almost 4 months away. 4 months of waiting before he gets his next shot at building the resume NASCAR is asking him to build, at least in the series he was trying to break into. Now NASCAR did leave him a path. He's still fully approved for the Craftsman Truck Series. He's still approved for ARCA. And here's a number that almost nobody talking about this story has mentioned. On the same weekend, his O'Reilly debut went sideways at Rockingham. Mitchell also raced the RCA Menards Series race at Rockingham, and he finished 4th. Career best in ARCA, according to Heavy Sports reporting, 4th place in a national series. On the same day, everyone was watching him spin in the O'Reilly car. So here's the math. If he runs more trucks, if he runs more ARCA, if he stacks together 2, 3, maybe 4 clean runs over the next few months. Dale Jr. specifically said 1, 2, maybe 3 more events somewhere else. Then NASCAR's "not yet" turns into a yes by the time Daytona and Talladega come back around in 2027. That's not a fantasy. That's the literal pathway Probst laid out in his own statement. And Mitchell himself? He gets it. In his Facebook video announcing the news, he said, "I need more windshield time, regardless of whether it's in an O'Reilly's car, Titi's an ARCA car, or a truck. More windshield time is going to help me. I got a lot to learn, guys, so this isn't as much of a step back or a push down as it seems. Little bit of a kick in the nuts, but I just got to get out there in the other cars, do as much learning as possible, And then hopefully I'll get to run Daytona and Talladega next year. That is not the voice of a YouTuber throwing a tantrum. That is the voice of a driver. And that might be the most important development in this whole story. So here's what I want you to think about. And I mean really think about it. 14 months ago, Garrett Mitchell was a YouTube guy with a big audience and a dream. Today, he's been told no by NASCAR, but in the same breath, he's been told the door is still open by the sport's top executive and by Dale Earnhardt Jr. He's got a fourth-place ARCA finish on his record. He's got a clean, if hectic, O'Reilly Series finish on his record. And he's got the maturity to admit, on camera, in front of nearly 5 million subscribers, that he needs more time. So ask yourself this. If Cleetus McFarland spends the next 4 months grinding ARCA and trucks, clean runs, no wrecks, top 15s, maybe a top 10, does NASCAR clear him for Daytona in February 2027? Because based on what Probst said, and based on what Dale Jr. said, the answer might actually be yes. And if that happens, a YouTuber with 5 million subscribers in a Cup-adjacent series car on the biggest stage in stock car racing, what does that do to NASCAR's audience? What does it do to the sport? Is this rejection actually the best thing that could have happened to Cleetus McFarland's racing career? Drop your prediction in the comments. I want to hear it. Like this video if you think Cleetus comes back stronger. Subscribe if you're new. I'll see you tomorrow.